What's good, everybody, and welcome to the podcast, Decision Time, powered to you by One Decision Fitness. Man, it's been a long time since we've been able to come together and do a podcast, let alone now adding in the video form. So I'm super excited to take on this next portion of this journey with this podcast, bring forth new information, quality information, and really have some talks for my fellas as well, so that way we can bring some better topics to the table, not only in fitness, but also around relationships, healthy relationships, healthy marriage, and so many other things as well. Today, I really wanted to bring an episode to y'all to reintroduce myself for a lot of you guys and girls that are new to this page, new to this profile, and new to this podcast, but also to talk about some very needed talks that are going on right now, not only in the fitness community, but also, I believe, between marriages and relationships, even outside of just the spouses alone. So without further ado, I want to make sure I give a great introduction for myself so that way you guys know who exactly is talking to you. My name is Keith Hartwell Jr., aka Coach KJ. I'm a former football player. For a long time, pursued that dream. God had other plans for me. Things did not work out, but in that course of it, he showed me so many different talents that I did actually have, so many different gifts that he had gifted me with, and now just trying to use those things to bring more people to the kingdom of God and trying to bring them about a new type of ideology, new type of thought process that does not stray away from the Bible, but actually gets us closer to it. But today, I wanted to dive into the topic of fitness and the way the fitness realm is right now. Especially within the idolatry that it seems to be running rampant in so many different ways. And so for myself, even in my background, for a long time, it became that idol for me. And to be clear, the thing that we have to understand is that anything that takes precedence over God for any particular reason becomes an idol within your life. And just from experience of knowing how I dealt with it and seeing how it's running rampant in so many people, especially with so many young people getting into it, but now with social media being so much bigger, with so many different eyes being on you at the same time, I can see where people have such an ambition to make sure that they look a certain way or portrayed a certain way. But at the same time, now it's starting to take over in a way that is pulling them away from what it may have been that God was leading them to. And so for me, when I was heavy into my fitness and things like that, and for some of y'all that know the testimony between my wife and myself, we were dealing with a lot at that time. For me, I leaned on to, exercise and stuff like that, and really just being in the gym, trying to clear my head in that way. Although I knew the Lord, although I knew I had relationship with the Lord, I was not running to him as the Savior at that time for that portion of my life. In those areas of my life, the insecurities ran rampant, and the way that I felt like was to get past those insecurities was being in the gym, doing things in the gym. And so my body and my body image became a higher goal and a higher necessity than my time with the Lord, aka an idol. And just looking through the landscape of social media and the pressure that I think a lot of people put on themselves, I don't really think that it's something that society puts on you. I believe it's something that we put on ourselves to look a certain way, think a certain way, and have certain type of image and surrounding around us, that now it has become that for so many other people as well. There is very little looking to God in this time. And I think just the times that we live in, the way the world is moving, especially in this election year, I think that we had a lot of things get exposed within the mindset of how a lot of people are. And not just in our politicians, but how close it is to us within our next door neighbors and things like that. And that's not in any slight to try to down somebody or say that you're lesser of a person. I think that we're just seeing a true example of the difference in morality that is truly just within the world right now. There's a lot of people that I was surprised to find out are, in my opinion, holding an image of holiness, but not necessarily trusting in the power that holiness is. And so, but I say all that to say, there's a lot of things that now people are quicker to allow themselves to be an idol. Even when we see the rise in the numbers of so many young men and women that are getting into the OnlyFans space, it's another thing that's feeding that idol that they are building up within themselves. And it, in my opinion, as a fitness professional, is tainting the profession. It is taking away from the profession because everything is so much vanity that we're not having quality work being put out. We're not having quality help being brought to people. And if you're somebody like myself who has seen a numerous amount of early deaths that should not have happened based off of health reasons, based off of lack of knowledge, based off of not knowing what to do, how to get their health right, this is a true passion. Not necessarily for yourself, not necessarily for the money, but to see an impact in X amount of lives. And so to now know and see how those things are changing, how that landscape has been torn down in a sense, it does suck. It is something that, in a sense is hurtful because you see how the byproduct of that is going to hurt so many more people. But this is something that we have to kind of pull back the veil on and expose to people that are new into this, because if you're not careful, you get sucked into it really quick. And especially if you're somebody, I love to see people make progress. I hate to see people allow the progress to change them, though, instead of being transformed by it. And what I mean by that is allowing something to change you takes over your identity. Allowing something to transform you enhances your identity. And I think that when we have this process within life, that we allow things to transform us and enhance the identity that God has already given us, that is a beautiful thing. We get to see people evolve. We get to see people grow. We get to see them hopefully grow closer to the Lord. That's the most important thing. But when we allow these things to change us, we see a identity that most people that knew them prior do not know at all. Never thought that they would come across. And so when it comes down to those things, and if we don't nip it in the bud, if we don't expose it, a lot of newer people coming into this, just like when we have a new believer in the body of Christ, they can quickly be, torn in two. They can quickly be led astray into a different path. And so I think that it's important that we do tackle these things to make sure that we understand vanity is not the only thing that this is about. If this is not in a way to glorify the Lord, then we need to reevaluate it. And even, yes, within our own bodies, we have to understand that this was the first gift that God gave us, to have this body as a vessel for us to be able to live, breathe, and most importantly, praise and worship his name and exalt his name. When we step away from that, then we run a dangerous risk of allowing too many open doors for sin to come in and things to really just sway us in a different path. And I'm not trying to pick on the ladies. I just noticed that the OnlyFans movement has ran more rampant within that group more than it has in the men, because it's like now you can't try to see any type of fitness page without it being something that's, just short of almost softcore in a sense. And I get it. There's a stigma that, I can go to the gym, I can wear what I want to. It's up to you not to subject me. And while there has to be self-control, there also has to be self-acknowledgement of what it is that you are doing. We shouldn't be going out into the world to bring forth temptation to anybody. That's not something that we should be striving to do on the male or female side. It should be something that, hey, are we going into this with the thought process, am I going to take care of the vessel that God gave me? Am I going to honor, this physical temple that God has blessed me with, to make sure that I am showing honor to him and stewardship to what it is that he gave me? That's the most important thing when it comes down to this fitness walk, this fitness journey, and this walk with the Lord. What are we using the gifts that we have for? How are we using them? And are we using them in the right way? That's the important thing that we have to make sure we dial in on, and have to make sure that we truly tap into, because if not, we can go downhill very fast. And I think that's where we're seeing the fitness industry go. Now, on the positive side of things, one thing that I am loving to see, I'm seeing so many more people are trying to get into the gym. I don't know if it's the popularity of social media, and this is where we have like that that flip of a coin in a sense, because some people are going to take it in a positive way, and they find the right profiles to follow, they find the right people to follow, and they take on this information, they take on this opportunity and go for it to try and change not only their life, but the generations that are following them. I'm 32 right now. So a lot of the people that I follow and that follow me are roughly around that, 22 to about 40 years old of age. So a lot of us have families. And I think that is an important thing. And it's a beautiful thing when you see people acknowledge it, that they see that they are a legacy builder, a path maker for the next generation that's coming up, whether it be their children or whatever, to make sure that health and wellness is something that they keep at the forefront of how to take care of themselves. I do think that it has had a huge impact on the positive side of the mental health of things. It's just finding that balance to where we're not, like I say, falling into that idolatry, allowing pride to come in and things of that nature. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to interrupt this great podcast that we got going, but I got a few great announcements. Now, this is right around Black Friday time, so you got until November 30th. Yes, November 30th to take advantage of our biggest sale that we have had since the start of this company. 45% off of personalized training and nutrition coaching packages. But these spots are limited, so make sure you get on those right away by going to the link in my bio on my IG page @_HartwellFit. Fill out the application so you can lock in your sale and your deal. This is first come, first serve. So as soon as you hear this, get on over there, make sure you take advantage of it, and make sure you get into it. For my fellas, don't forget about our men's group. Make sure you lock in with me so that way you can get locked in with that group, where we're going to be going through different challenges to try and grow ourselves as husbands, as men of God, as fathers, and as brothers as well within this walk. And you don't want to miss out on it. Even having weekly workouts that you'll be able to follow along with, get into the gym and do, so that way we can work on the muscles that are physical as well as while we're doing it in a spiritual sense as well. Now back to the episode. Now, when it comes into those of you that are getting into the gym, every time when I come on Decision Time, I want to make sure I give y'all some tangible tips as you go into it. And I'm going to tell you just like how I tell my clients. If you're starting out, don't worry about going in there and trying to do, the bodybuilder workout, your favorite influencers workout. Please understand that a lot of us that have been doing fitness for so long are at a different level. And I say that humbly, not to try and boast or be proud or prideful. But there's a difference in the way that our body is going to adapt to the stresses that we put it under. For you, when you're starting out, I'm going to tell you, just like anybody else, the progression, in my opinion, should always be start off with the full body days. Now, if you have specific goals, maybe you're somebody who's training for a specific way for your profession. Maybe you're getting ready to be a police officer, somebody in the military. You might need to work on strength or things like that. When we get into the specifics, that'll be something I'll have to handle on a one-on-one basis. But if we're speaking just general terms, I would definitely say starting off with the 3 full body workouts a week is a huge deal. And even if you want to work more of, the hypertrophy or the muscle building and, really trying to accentuate certain areas, still doing 3 days a week, but doing an upper lower full body day type of split is something that is amazing. The one thing that I will say is a pro over having by having the 3 full body days over the latter is the fact that, hey, let's say you have a busy week. You're able to get your workout in, and let's say if the workout days were set for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're able to get your Monday or your Wednesday in, but when Friday rolls around, it may be things with the kids. It may be overtime at the job. Maybe the gym had closed up before you're able to get there and you don't have access to, specific things at the house to give yourself that type of workout. Or you might just be, pretty beat down from your first couple weeks getting back in the gym. At least we've hit some of those muscle groups around 2 times that week. And really, if you want to see substantial growth, that's primarily all you need, is at least hitting 2 times a week. As we build up that consistency, our goal would be by, week 6, 7, that we are seeing, almost 100% consistency not even almost, 100% consistency in our attendance to the gym. Also at that time, hopefully adding in other things that we can use as metrics. How well are we finishing all our sets? How well are we performing our reps? And then we can start to look at progressions from there. But to master that first portion of it, of just getting in the gym, being consistent, I love to make all my clients start off with 3 full body days a week. It is going to be something that's going to be monumental for you. You have to build that momentum early on. And you also just to build up that snowball effect before you move into different type of training splits. You already have that consistency, that mindset is there. You already started to see some wins. And now you're starting to see what it is that you want to build on, where those weak points are a little bit more. So that way we can really dial in those things. And I'll tell you guys that are listening to this, just like I tell everybody else, make sure you follow me at @_HartwellFit. Hit me up in my inbox. I don't turn down any conversations with anybody. I'm there to help. The whole reason behind One Decision Fitness is to try and create one of the biggest impacts, show people that you don't have to wait for a choice to be given to you, but you can decide today that you're going to make change for yourself, make change for others around you. And I want to try and help as many people do that as possible. I could say 1,000, I could say 1,000,000. At the end of the day, I don't care what the number is. Whoever God leads me to and whoever God leads to me, I want to make sure that I'm able and available to help them, especially when it comes to your fitness. Now, let's flip it over to the relationship side. This has been a talk. I work with a lot of guys. So this has been a talk that we are able to have on a regular basis. And one thing that's come up that I feel like has created a huge hindrance in marriage, excuse me, and I think the enemy has been doing a tireless job on, is making sure communication is broke down within relationships. And there's a lot of people that I feel are afraid to have conversations on certain subjects, certain areas, whether it be intimacy, whether it be in-laws, whether it be boundaries with friends of the opposite sex, whether it be even your relationship with God individually that may be hindering it together. I think that there is a huge disconnect right now between man and wife within marriage that is hindering the growth of marriage, where it can be and what it can do. My wife and I can tell you that breaking down of any type of communication is a huge way to also create a lot more insecurities. When you're somebody who it's tough for you to have conversations about intimacy, and one partner may be very big on intimacy, there's going to create a disconnect. There's going to create insecurities. And in the same way, when it comes down to just emotional intelligence, where you're not able to have a conversation about somebody's emotions and understand the big threes, understanding your tone, your timing, and your your tone, your timing, and your body language. I apologize. Your tone, your timing, and your body language is those big three. And then also understanding that within that conversation, there are going to be things that you say that you understand, that intrapersonal side. Then you have that interpersonal side of communication between you and the person you're talking to. And this side that everybody likes to disregard is the third person side. There are things that we do within communication, man and woman, whether it be between your spouse, and I'm going to say even talking to anybody else, that when you don't allow the opportunity to say, okay, look, I may not have thought that I did something. I may not have thought that I did something a certain way, but if somebody notices it, I also can't, thwart their visual of what they got, their understanding of what they got. I have to take those things in, because that's going to ultimately help my growth. And if we look at this as a growth process, we will see that a lot of pride is broken down within communication. And so, one thing that I want to encourage a lot of couples, whether you are listening to this by yourself or you're listening to this with your spouse, take the time to set aside, whether it be one time a week, even if it's just at random and it's unscheduled. But if it's something that right now is a very tough thing, I would definitely say try to schedule it out. Sit down with your spouse, have conversations, and most importantly, ask the questions. Babe, what is it that you feel like is a tough area for you to talk about? And ask the why. a lot of us as adults, we have dealt with so many traumatic things in our past that, it could have been molestation, it could have been abuse, it could have been anger from a parent, so many different things that I think our trauma response in many cases is to cause us to shut down when those things arise, when those opportunities arise to, hit these things head on. And if we do that continually, it hinders our relationships, our relationship growth. But as the spouse, let's ask the question of why. Let's get deep down into it and figure out, what is it that I can do to steward the love that you're trusting me with the way that I need to, because that's the important thing. When it comes down to the relationship, it's not about you saying, "Oh, I'm the most honest person that she's been with. I'm the most upfront and blunt person that he's been with," and things of that nature. It's the point of understanding that our relationship is also about me stewarding the traumas that you have dealt with to help you grow. No, I'm not the one that can mend them. Only Jesus Christ can heal those broken areas. I'm not going to stand in the gap and say that I'm going to be able to do that as he would, but I am going to love you through it in the same way that Christ loves the church, even through our sinful ways, even through our wrongdoings. But I want to push you to improve these things, not to coddle them. We got to conquer what it is that we have dealt with. We got to conquer what it is that we are dealing with, and we got to make sure that we make progressions. But as your partner and my wife as my helpmate, we got to help each other do these things together. We got to figure out the whys, ask the questions, not just react to the actions in that moment. And even if there's times that we got to step away, there's a time that we got to come back together and acknowledge what happened and figure out, why does it go this way? Why does it happen in this way? If it is so consistently, but those are things that I'm praying for when it comes down to the relationships that are going on now, because it sucks to see so many relationships be hurt and hindered because the enemy truly is just digging his hand into that relationship to try and take out, to just draw a wedge. But just as the Bible says, what God put together, let no man put asunder. So let's always be mindful that we take our relationship back to God. Take it in prayer before the Lord before you have those conversations. Don't go into it with a blank mind. Truly be thoughtful about what it is that you are trying to say, and don't let your tongue be a sword within that situation, especially towards somebody that you love. But those are things that I think that once we really, and especially for the couples that are hearing this, or the parent that is hearing this, that you have a child. Trust me, when you start to deal with these things that you can deal with another adult who is your spouse that you have become one with, imagine how much better that's going to make you to not bridge, to not create a bridge off the same boards that were broken in your life before. You're able to create a brand new path for your children. You're able to create new healthy patterns for your children. And, that's something that I think every parent in their heart wants to make sure they do. It's not something that we want to, put off and say, well, our kids are going to learn that when it's their time. No, that's not the case. And there's a saying that goes around that hard times make tough men make soft times make soft men. I got to discredit all that, because it's not the soft times that make soft men. It's that when those soft times come up, the men that went through tough times are not sharing the lessons that we went through. The women that went through tough times are not sharing the lessons that we went through for that next generation, to where they're just repeating them. That's why a cycle repeats, because the message is not being conveyed down of where the wrongs were before. The Bible says in Proverbs, a fool will learn from his own mistakes. A wise man will learn from others. Let's be wise in this time. Let's learn from others. Let's share with the following generation, so that way we can help them. So that way we can be the elders as we grow up, and as the elders that we have now can share those things, help the next generation come up in a better way, help the next generation not make any of the mistakes that were made before, and if they do, correct them before they go too far deep into it. But guys, I thank y'all for tuning in today for this episode. First one back, but we got many more on the way. I'm looking forward to it. Make sure that y'all follow me on all socials. As far as, well, I shouldn't say all. I am on TikTok and on Instagram, and obviously YouTube right here. So make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And over on TikTok and IG, follow me at at underscore Heartwell Fit. Make sure you lock in with me, turn on those post notifications so you don't miss out on anything, because we will be start doing some more lives and things like that, so that way we can bring a little bit more attention not only to the page but also to the conversations that need to be had. But until next time, y'all be blessed.